Coming out of the press conference, a couple of notes is the fact that Tony Khan, he did note when Adam Cole came out, stated that, Adam Cole came back because of how much he loved pro wrestling and that he had told him multiple times that if Cole could not resume his career, he was going to pay him every dime committed to him on his wrestling contract. And, marveling at this guy coming back and now headlining the show with MJF. MJF, it was still... it was babyface MJF that still maintains like that heel edge in the press conferences. But I mean, this guy really did come across as, especially off the top, like this is the guy that wants to be the leader of this company and wants to give a positive statement of, obviously all of this stuff is fresh. And even in that moment, I'm sure he's very in tune with what a lot of the discussion is and the fact that he is coming out and openly acknowledging, yes, there are people that fight, there is drama, but at the end of the day, we are the best performers in the world and we put on the best shows. And I want to lead this group. Like it was quite like the rallying speech here from MJF that more and more you see positioned as like the guy to lead this company.
Totally. Absolutely.
I mean, wants that role.
Oh yeah. I guess, it really feels like he's been, fighting for, and I think has been very ready for this spot for quite a while.
Khan continued to reiterate the paid number of 81,035. He guessed that there were several thousand comps, or maybe not guessing would be the correct term, but several thousand comps. And he estimated around like 90,000 altogether inside the building, if you include hospitality, staff. I don't know if it would be quite, if you're thinking like 9,000 people extra. The point being, though, that he legitimately could have announced the number plus comps. And on paper, it's a more impressive number. Like you could add the comps, and it's comps and paid is still not going the WWE route of like everybody in the stadium is counted and then some. But instead they went, and I thought this was very interesting, the fact that they have attached themselves to the paid number. That is going to be a harder number for WWE to, number one, dispute, and number two, to break, just based on the stadiums they run, the configuration that like this year's WrestleMania at SoFi did, like both nights did like 63 and 64,000 roughly paid per night. It's going to be that is an incredible number that it's going to be, it's not like WWE can just snap their fingers and sell 81,000 tickets that they have, and AEW is opting to use that as sort of the comparison. It's not the total number, it's the paid number.
I think it's a very interesting sort of like way of thinking.
No other promoter would, I don't think, would do that and not just include like what is the highest number we can get away with is the typical thought process. And it's not shady at all to just announce the number, like including comps. Like that is common practice.
Right. I think a lot of this goes towards like, I think Tony Khan being, a sort of like a longtime wrestling fan who is very much aware of the online discussion and maybe constant like pointing out of the bullshit of, these WWE numbers, and him wanting to not at all play the game and be able to say, we have something that is concrete, that is legitimate, and that we don't have to bullshit you to tell you that we did better than you. I think it just maybe adds to maybe the idea that AEW, or at least his communications to the public are a bit more honest and a bit more authentic, and that these are legitimate numbers and they're not trying to just exaggerate. And, like people like us, I think, feel a little bit more comfortable, maybe trusting future attendance announcements.
On the MJF front, maybe the most interesting thing he did note is like he referred to him going on vacation now, coming off of this show, which I guess we will see on Wednesday. But that's another curveball that the Chicago shows might be without.
Well, could be a 2-day vacation, could be a 3-day vacation. Who knows? How much time he wants to take. I mean, I believe he went to Paris, so it's a short distance.
Maybe MJF's trip to Paris is going to be this year's Moxley Goes Fishing.
Yeah, maybe he might be called in from that vacation a little bit earlier.
So coming up, Tony Khan announced that they have 2 nights in Seattle. They will do Collision on Saturday, September 30th, and then they are doing a Wrestle Dream pay-per-view on Sunday, October 1st, which coincides with the anniversary of Antonio Inoki's passing, and they'll take place at the Climate Pledge Arena. So we are going to get following All In. It's All Out this Sunday. Grand Slam is on Wednesday, September 20th, and then a week and a half later is the next pay-per-view on October the 1st, which obviously they expect to have New Japan participation given the Inoki tribute that this show will be.
Right, but I was listening to Semper Vivi today. He pointed out how New Japan was running a show on the same day.
New Japan has, well, it's right in the middle of their Road to Destruction tour. So I think at best it's not going to be like a full out New Japan show, but they would be, I guess, hopeful that they could get some talent available. But it's just, I believe, it's a Road to show that they have. They're running Korakuen and Hall back-to-back nights on those shows. And they do have the lineups out. So I don't see them just
so I could look it up right now and just tell you who's on the October 1st New Japan Pro Wrestling show.
A lot. It's a ton of multi-tags.
It's pretty much the full roster, or at least, very close to it. A lot of a lot of New Japan strong guys too. So I mean, I thought like the US sort of contingent would be available, but Evil, I don't think is going to make it. Sonata's not going to make it. I'm very sorry, Eric Marcotte. Kazuchika Okada, Tetsuya Naito, Hiromu Takahashi, Leo Rush is on this show, just to kind of show you, the U.S. side of things too. Minoru Suzuki, Shota Umino, Narita, Yuji Nagata is not going to be there for the Inoki tribute. Shingo, Yoda Hiroshi Tanahashi. I mean, this is pretty much a full roster. Tomohiro Ishii. So I'm curious to know what New Japan roster members will be available for this.
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. It would be very uncharacteristic of New Japan to deviate from advertised matches for something like that. But what do you think overall, just about the expansion of pay-per-views for the company? Like, they certainly feel very aggressive going towards it. Like for all we want to say about All Out, and we don't really know what this card is going to be until at least Wednesday, is the fact that, I mean, they have the latest ticket figure from WrestleTix is over 9,100. They are actually ahead of last year's number for All Out. So, I mean, it hasn't sold out the United Center, but I mean, at least for Sunday, it's a strong number for them. Right. The other two Chicago shows, not as much.
Right. Clearly he feels, like pay-per-views are doing well enough and are profitable enough for the company that they're worth doing, even if they're not necessarily like major sellouts at these venues. I obviously don't know much about the internals of the business of how he runs his shows, but does a show have to sell out to be profitable?
Well, I think we're all like with these shows, and depending on Sunday, like what they draw Sunday on pay-per-view kind of tells me like what a baseline is going to be for AEW. And I think it's going to be a lot higher than people think. But that's also, we don't know what the card is and what they have up their sleeve to announce, presumably Wednesday, if not earlier.
There's also, I think, maybe continued speculation about what future streaming deals might be available for them. And I think building these sort of like, a reputation for having a monthly pay-per-view schedule, I mean, essentially just gives them something else that they could sell. Yeah.
Well, these are a lot, like that Arthur Ashe Stadium show needs, that can't just be another week of TV either. Like there's a lot that they have booked, and now you had this October 1st pay-per-view, and then November they will do Full Gear at the Kia Forum. This had previously been reported. That'll be on Saturday, November 18th. So that's the answer. They're going to do a Saturday night to avoid the NFL on Sunday, and that means for that week, Collision will be on the Friday night. And I'm assuming you're just going to have a 3-hour block on TNT with Rampage after it.
We don't know the time yet, but we would, if Rampage is still going to be a part of it, like we would assume either an 8 p.m. start or a 9 p.m. start, right? Like
I would think like you try to keep Collision in its normal 8 to 10 slot and Rampage 10 to 11.
So we get our first head-to-head.
We would have, you're right. We would have Collision head-to-head with SmackDown that night. So that is the plan for pay-per-views for the rest. And beyond that, I mean, it was, There were some good questions asked just about overall their business and streaming options. Obviously, Tony Khan has stated in other interviews they want to be on Max, and that was brought up, and he really touted the success of the company in the UK and numbers being up. Of course, they are on a stronger network than WWE in the UK, but there was a lot to pat themselves on the back for coming off this show at Wembley, and now planning for next year's show. And it was asked about the idea of bringing your TVs over. And this year, the thinking was they wanted their first show to be Wembley. Next year, it's not like you're doing the first show. And I would think at the very least, do Collision in London, or I think like there will be, I do see this as like a tourist destination next year for All In and piggyback it. Like you saw what RevPro did, and you do a big Collision the night before with all of these wrestling fans in town. I think at the least you would want to do Collision.
Right. I understood it. I mean, they do it in North America because they're running the same buildings, right? Like they're like in Toronto, for instance, you had Collision at the Scotiabank Arena because you didn't have to change setup for Forbidden Door the next day. When you're running Wembley, though, that poses maybe a different challenge. You're setting up another building, booking another building, doing all that transportation just to run Collision, and then moving everything over, or at least having two separate crews or two separate setups for Wembley the next day.
But if you could draw, say, in a Collision here in the U.S., like last week in Duluth, what Duluth did, like 5,000 or 6,000 people, how many more are you drawing in London?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it makes business sense that they're confident enough that their Collision will be that much more profitable, then it would make sense. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what sort of like costs are involved with something like that. But I could definitely see them doing it.